I think that actually the era of robots already came many years ago, but now everything goes much faster, and we are now probably the witnesses of the most visible area of robots. So yes, the big changes are happening right now. No, I don't think that they would completely replace humans. It's very, very difficult to say any numbers, because as we could see even today during the presentations, we even don't know. We cannot count with all the causes and what all the outputs that these causes can cause. But my estimation would be that maybe 50–60% of the positions in next 20 years, let's make it a little bit longer, will be robotized. And if not entirely replaced by robots, then influenced a lot by robots. But definitely there will be positions that cannot be or will be very difficult to replace by robots, like positions that needs a lot of different manual work, or positions like managerial positions that needs to actually manage people, manage the relationships between people, negotiate with people. This will be very, very difficult for robots in the future. And also, I think that as is assumed that 65% of the positions that the Generation Z will do doesn't exist yet. So my very often example is that if we would show our grandmothers, whatever, maybe the smartphone or whatever we have, and we would told them, like, to have this smartphone at my hand, these professions are needed, not only to create the smartphone itself, but also the applications and everything. They would not know, they wouldn't know what you were talking about, because these positions simply appeared with the new machines. And it's going to be the same with robots. I would have at this moment the same answer as I would have for the question how to prepare for the interview with human HR, a lady. So but it's very simple. If you want to do some job, to perform well at the job, you must be competent. So you must know what to do, and you must want to do it. It means you must be competent and motivated. And the future robots, it will take a long time, but the future robots will most probably help to conduct the behavioral interview with the people, maybe. So I would say, think a little bit about the position you are going to hold within the company. What competencies are needed for such a position? And if you are able to give some real examples from your previous working life, if you are competent in those areas. And also, what is it what's going to motivate you at the position? And is it something that the position offers? So in fact, it's going to be the same like having interview with the HR human, but it will just be held by the robot. Maybe it will take a longer time before the robot, through the facial recognition and voice recognition, will be able to capture emotions. So I think that there will be definitely a long time between there will be only robot conducting interview. There will most likely be HR specialist and robot helping him to analyze certain data much more quickly, but there will definitely be a human to keep the human touch. And I'm a big fan of all new technologies and artificial intelligence, but I also know its limits. So I think that the best is to take the maximum added value from humans and from robots and mix it together. It's emotions, definitely, at this moment. They are not able to most probably show the emotions, even they are definitely tries to do it. But also I think that talking about robots and emotions, for them will be very difficult to capture emotions and react on you properly. So most likely they will be involved in introducing the position as well. And again, when it's going to be about emotions, relationships, there will be a human to conduct. People generally trust more humans. I mean, humans trust humans more than machines, they say. But if you really think about it, and I mentioned it at my presentation, as soon as the people see the benefits and they see that it's not threatening them, they immediately, at that very moment, change their mind. And the very good example I gave with the tennis game, with the Hawkeye, like if it was, before it was launched, tennis players were telling like, I cannot imagine to trust the computer more, and maybe to see the picture, but like really trust some machine. And nowadays they trust during the tennis game much more to the Hawkeye than definitely to the judge. And they also have limited access to the Hawkeye during the game nowadays. That crazy it is. And in the future it's going to be about, and to be more practical, like if most probably if you saw your, whatever you have, Apple or whatever Android system, if you see the machine talking to you, or you can ask, when was the child the fourth born? And your cell phone, your smartphone is answering you this question by voice. The first reaction was, oh, that's really cool, but it's also scary. But as soon as you find out that when you are driving a car, for example, that you can just say the text, just tell the text message, and it's automatically sent to someone, it's saving your time, energy, and it actually makes your driving safer. So I think that people just need to have the first experience to see that robots are here to help and support and not to threaten us, and they will change the opinion very quickly. I mean, it was like if you show the Native Americans in whatever century it was, the big train, they were scared, they were fighting with it. It's not like that anymore, and I think that this is the same with robots. If it was really based only on artificial intelligence at this stage, I cannot imagine it, to be quite honest. It would definitely have influence on people because it would most probably had no emotion. So if we take it to the extreme example and we would let artificial intelligence to decide whom to hire, maybe it would evaluate that, for example, men are preferred over women, because the artificial intelligence might evaluate that women are a risk to hire because they might leave for maternity leave quite soon, for example. And it cannot work like that. So this would really be a threat, and this could really influence the relationships. But what is more important to be influenced in the future is that today we look on the competencies like if someone is agreeable and it's able to work in a team, for example, with other people. And we will be looking not only for this competency, but also for if someone is able to work with robots, side by side with robots. This is, for example, going to be a new thing to look at, because that could cause a lot of problems. For someone who is quite sociable, but afraid of new technologies, reserved, not open to change, and then would be working with robots, can cause a lot of problems. I'm a huge fan of comic books, so I really recommend Top 10 from Alan Moore. If you read it, then you might be prepared for what the future will bring. But more seriously, I think that it's all about openness to change and seeing opportunities instead of threats, because we definitely cannot change the future. We can select a different approach to it. That's how we can change how the future will be perceived. So people should rather look at the benefits and also be very, very careful about where the data goes. So there is a lot of definitely legal and social issues not solved yet. But we as humans must focus on the opportunities and most probably focus on what we are able to learn, what competencies, how we are using them instead of remembering things. Because definitely remembering things is not the way, generally speaking, of course. I think that most of us are risking more already by giving all the data to the internet. I mean, there is like whatever application you want to use, you agree with so many things that most of the people are not even reading what they agree with. And to be quite fair, I think that on the other side, and I don't want to mention the concrete names, but on the other side, they try to work with that as much properly as possible because they are aware of the legal issues that it could cause in the future. We must be very careful with that but I would say that we will just, from my business area, which is psychometrics and identifying the human potential, I think that nowadays we collect the data and we analyze them anonymously in the huge volume, and then compare the respective result of the candidate based on this huge big data. And we reveal the output only to the HR people. And that's what the guy or lady, whoever it is, agrees with. So he or she agrees with revealing my data to the HR lady. Or they can completely confuse not to go through the assessment or not to reveal the data. It must be the same in the future with robots. It will be about data processing and also about data storage. But I think that there are already new regulations coming next year, GDPR, for example, and many others, which will more or less solve these problems for us in the future. Well, to be quite honest, I'm a little bit in that position already. So I will not reveal everything, but I would focus on people to be hired to the positions based on their potential and competencies instead of just knowledge and experience from CVs. That's one thing. The other thing, which is much more noble or higher, let's say, is that we should really work with the educational system somewhat. So if I would really had a lot of money, I would most probably focus on putting as much effort as possible to changing the educational system. So again, with our kids is working in the way of working with their potential and working with the skills they will need in the future than with the memory. It's happening already. There are local initiatives, but from the outside perspective, and at least from our clients' perspective, is definitely not enough. So I would focus there, because I usually say that to know where the Charles IV was born will not save our economy in the future. I would end up with this.